Hello and welcome once again to Straight Bat, my weekly blog where, as the title suggests, I bat with a straight bat. And we're going to talk today about Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has turned 70 this week. And I thought it might be a good time to press the pause button and reflect on my life and times with Prime Minister Modi. That's right, Modi and me is what I've called this Straight Bat blog, because the first time I met Narendra Modi was 1990. I was about a year or two into journalism and I had got the chance to track the Ram Janmabhoomi Rath Yatra. In a sense, it was the first big assignment, you could argue, that I had got, and that's when I met a certain Narendra Bhai Damodar Das Modi in Somnath, because he was organizing the Rath Yatra of L.K. Advani. Of course, that's a very long time ago, and Prime Minister Modi has evolved from the politician who at that time would organize everything for us, from the fax machines that we needed to send our copy to the Times of India where I worked at the time, to even organizing the chairs for a press conference that would be held during the Rath Yatra, into now, of course, this muscular, larger-than-life two-time Prime Minister of the country. To be honest, in the 1990s, Modi and I got along rather well, or Modi ji and I got along rather well. I moved to Delhi in 1994 and I knew a fair smattering of Gujarati. And it was around the same time that Mr. Modi also began to play a more active role at the BJP's national headquarters. And since we had the Gujarati connection, that helped at times. In fact, Modi had known my grandfather, who was a police officer of the Gujarat cadre, and that again enabled us to strike some kind of a rapport. So over meals of kadhi chawal that we would occasionally have, we called ourselves the outsiders in this big bad world of Delhi. The 1990s was an interesting period for politics. A lot of churning was taking place. Mandal, Mandir movements, coalition governments, private news television was also part of this churning, this revolution in a way that was taking place. And we were constantly on the lookout for TV savvy politicians who would appear on our programs. The BJP was lucky, it was blessed with quite a few at the time. There was Pramod Mahajan, Sushma Swaraj, Arun Jaitley, Govind Acharya, and of course Narendra Bhai. Of the many anecdotes over the years that I have told about Narendra Modi, there is one that always stands out for me, of ringing up Mr. Modi at the last moment with an hour left for a 10 p.m. program that, guess what, I used to co-anchor with Arnab Goswami, and the BJP guest Vijay Kumar Malhotra had dropped out. So I said, who do I get? And I just rang up Narendra Modi and said, Narendra Bhai, tamari jarurat che. I need you. So he rushed into the, took a taxi and rushed to the studio with barely 5 minutes to go. It's something which I will always remember, because in a way it's a life lesson. Nothing is constant in life and politics. Now, as I said, the same Mr. Modi today maintains this arm's length from journalists, occasionally takes selfies from rather overexcited journalists when there is a Diwali Milan which is organized at the BJP headquarters, and gives these interviews where he really, controls and dictates the terms of the interviews. The truth is that the Narendra Modi that I knew, who used to freely come to television studios, who would join us on big fight debates. I still remember a debate held just before or just after 9/11 happened. He was there. So he was a pugilist politician, never asked me kaun sa sawal puchoge, none of that. From there to today, zameen asman ka farak. In a way, the 2002 riots, I think, changed my equation with Modi and changed Modi's equations in general with journalists. I think then, post 2002, Narendra Modi saw the media, especially the English language media, as the enemy, almost as adversarial, that they are the ones who have targeted me because because the riots took place under my watch, and they are the other, they are the enemy, and I somehow need to be seen as the victim, and therefore I'm going to keep myself at an arm's length from this so-called liberal English language media. I remember on the evening of when Mr. Modi won the 2002 elections, I had interviewed him, and he had then turned to me and triumphantly said, "You must now apologize to the people of Gujarat for having given the state a bad name." All I had done was reported what had been happening in Gujarat in 2002, but clearly the relationship which had been built on those curry chawal meals in Delhi had now become a relationship of almost hostility at one level, but certainly the friendship somewhere, I think, was gone. Sadly, his supporters, I believe, took a cue from their leader. If Mr. Modi could target journalists and call them news traders at times, his social media armies felt they had a license to do the same. And the anonymity that social media provides gave these social media armies fresh ammunition to target journalists. It was almost as if any journalist, or certainly some journalists, let's put it this way, who had covered 2002 could never be forgiven for questioning their icon, their Hindu Hriday Samrat. And yet, ironically, when my father passes away in 2007, one of the first politicians to ring me up and offer condolences was Narendra Bhai. And I must confess, it was a gesture that touched a chord. It signaled that, even though we had grown apart, an element of warmth existed at a personal level. But I think the tension never really went away, and that's increasingly apparent. I remember he gave me an interview again just ahead of the 2012 Gujarat elections and made me sit on the footboard of the bus. I think he was deriving sadistic pleasure from reminding me of my station in life as a reporter, talking to this big national leader now. Right through the 2014 general election campaign, and I write about it in my 2014 book, I would often ring him and he would call me back. We would particularly talk late into the night, and he would share his insights on the campaign because he is a consummate politician obsessed with elections in particular, 24/7 politician in that sense. But he never gave me an interview, not in 2014 and not in 2019 either. I guess some of the demons of the past have never been fully excised. Since his remarkable election triumphs and his rise as this larger than life leader, Narendra Modi is now at 7 Lok Kalyan Marg. And I keep saying, Modi ji ki zindagi badal gayi, hum wahin ke wahin reh gaye. It is a remarkable journey at one level. When you look back at 70 years, from being a Swayam Sevak in the RSS to then Pracharak to Secretary of the party, then to Chief Minister and now to Prime Minister, it's been quite a journey. And I think you at one level have to look at Mr. Modi as an example of someone who has managed to overcome all obstacles to reach the goal that he always had, this sort of relentless ambition that has driven him forward. And neither being a cheerleader nor a critic, I remain where I am, the reporter chained to the wheel. All I can do is say happy birthday, Narendra Bhai. That's it on this rather unusual straight bad blog. Thanks for watching.